Marjorie Taylor Greene.
He called me a traitor. Let me tell you what a traitor is. A traitor is an American that serves foreign countries and themselves.
Hello and welcome to the Nexus. Who to trust? That's the big question we're asking today. If you're a patriotic American, a MAGA supporter, do you stand with the insurgent Marjorie Taylor Greene or the big daddy of the movement, Donald J. Trump?
MAGA is going to still be strong, but it's more going to be about America first.
MAGA is in the midst of a brutal civil war.
More from them in a moment, but first a quick look at how a good friendship turned so bad.
This is the hardest working, the most incredible woman. She's respected by everybody. She is very smart.
The Democrats are a party of pedophiles.
I would definitely say so.
And I'm just very happy that she's on our side, right?
What about Jewish space lasers?
Why don't you off? How about that?
Marjorie Taylor Greene, please come up. Come.
Mr. President, we're going to re-elect our favorite president, the greatest president in United States history, Donald J. Trump. Right, Georgia?
I don't know what happened to Marjorie. She's a nice woman, but I don't know what happened. She's lost her way, I think.
Now to the news that has rattled Washington over the last couple of days. Firebrand Republican Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene announcing she will resign from her seat in January.
I'm going back to the people that I love to live my life to the fullest.
The Georgia representative and longtime loyalist of President Trump has spent the last several weeks in a public feud with the president over the Epstein files.
I'm not afraid to name names.
Greene, who was among 4 House Republicans who joined to force a vote next week on releasing the Justice Department's Epstein files.
Trump accusing Greene of betraying the entire Republican Party, calling her a ranting lunatic and a traitor.
Marjorie Taylor Greene.
Let me tell you what a traitor is. A traitor is an American that serves foreign countries and themselves. The American people want the Epstein files released.
Are you suggesting there's something in the Epstein files that President Trump does not want Americans to see?
The women themselves that I have talked to have over and over again said that Donald Trump did nothing wrong. Why fight this so hard?
You questioned who and what country is putting so much pressure on Trump. What are you trying to say there?
We saw Jeffrey Epstein with ties to Ehud Barak. We saw him making business deals with them, also business deals that involved the Israeli government.
She started as one of the president's staunchest supporters and will leave Congress branded
Marjorie Taylor Greene.
But I fought for him for the policies and for America first. And he called me a traitor for standing with these women. Those are the types of words used that can radicalize people against me and put my life in danger.
I don't think her life is in danger. Frankly, I don't think anybody cares about her.
Okay, let's bring in Marjorie's friend now, and we have David Guldenschuh with us. He is an attorney in her home state of Georgia. We also have Republican commentator Scottie Nell Hughes and her Democratic opposite, David Shuster. Welcome to the program, everybody. David Guldenschuh, if I could start with you. As you can see by this lovely picture from July the 4th, you are a close friend of hers. Let me ask you, put this to bed, because everyone's speculating about why she quit. What are the actual reasons?
Well, I think there's actually a combination of 3 different things that led her to this point. Marjorie went to Washington as an agent for change. She wanted to see things get done there, and it turned out to be even more dysfunctional than even she had imagined. So I think she was very frustrated with the dysfunction in Washington. I think the Charlie Kirk assassination had a profound impact on her. Marjorie routinely has received death threats since she's become well known in the media, and I think that probably brought down to her concerns about her own safety. And then there was the falling out with the president, and ultimately I think his referral to her as a traitor, which merely tamped up those safety concerns. And I think she finally made the decision that she couldn't get things done in Washington, and for safety reasons, as much as anything else, made the decision to go ahead and resign.
There is one reason you haven't mentioned, but the delightful AOC has decided to share her gossip with the world Have a listen to this.
Marjorie Taylor Greene wanted to run for Senate in Georgia. Trump said no. And the White House and Trump land shut down Marjorie Taylor Greene's personal ambitions to run for Senate. And she has been on a revenge tour ever since.
David, turns out to be petty self-interest. She's been on a revenge tour.
I have known Marjorie since she first announced that she was going to run in the 14th district back in 2019. I have never seen her take a position to establish a platform to run for some higher office. That's not something that has ever been a major thought process for her. I don't think any polling or anything President Trump said had any impact on her whatsoever. I don't think it affected their relationship. Marjorie's a smart lady. She understands what she can and can't do politically. And I don't envision her running for office again. She could certainly change her mind, but that is not the reason she got out of this campaign, to position herself. AOC is as wrong on that as she is on every other domestic policy she's ever spoke about.
Scottie, you're an admirer of both Marjorie and the president. We can see the photograph with the president over your shoulder there. Whose side are you on in all of this?
So here's what's interesting about this. I want a friend like David. Will you come be my friend? Because you are a good friend of Marjorie Taylor Greene. You gave exactly, I think, the answer that Marjorie would love to hear. And I think what definitely that she would say would be a good answer to give in an interview like this. But let me go a little bit deeper. Marjorie Taylor Greene was the most loyal supporter of President Trump. She stood by his side when almost every other Republican abandoned him on January 6th, abandoned him in all of the Russiagate trials, everything. She was his friend. So when this falling out happened, I think it was not only professional, but it was personal. And up on the Hill right now, there is a great division that's happening within our Republican Party. And she realized that she didn't have many other allies in this, especially. And you know what? When you don't have any other friends, you have nothing to lose. You go absolutely to the wall. And that's what she's done. I think that's why she took on, as a fellow female, she took on these Epstein victims and said, President Trump, you don't have anything to hide. The Democrats would have brought it out. So let's bring this out right now. I think she realizes just how deep the swamp is. Even Representative Tim Burchett has now started to point that out and back up her words, saying it is absolutely treacherous up here. And I think she said, you know what, I'm going to fight as much as I can, but I'm going to go back home to Georgia. David, this is where I think that you're a bad friend. I think if I was advising Miss Greene, I would be saying you need to be running for governor, because in a state like Georgia, as we found with Brian Kemp, taking on President Trump is actually very popular with the people of Georgia. They want a solid Republican, but they want someone that's going to be willing to stand up to the president in certain areas. And I think this actually sets her up very well for an upcoming run for the next governor of Georgia.
Thank you. David Shuster, do you buy all these explanations? Do you think actually it was just self-interest?
I actually think that Scottie and David are correct in part. First, on the safety issue, it's sort of ironic and telling about American politics and the source of violence that Marjorie Taylor Greene, who called Nancy Pelosi a 9 years ago and has been hated by Democrats and progressives, that 9 years of that hatred from Democrats didn't cause any safety concerns, but just a couple of days of Donald Trump calling her a traitor, and suddenly Marjorie Taylor Greene's getting violent threats and feels like my safety's in jeopardy, I need to leave. So that's the first thing. The second part is, yes, I do think that Marjorie Taylor Greene has been hurt by the falling out with Donald Trump. And to Scottie's point, sure, she does have a political future in Georgia if she wants to stay there. And my sense is that she was so hurt by Donald Trump essentially burying any possibility of her either running for Senate or governor after Donald Trump spurned her and would not even consider her for a cabinet position a year ago, that was part of the falling out. And the final point I'll say is it's no fun. Marjorie Taylor Greene has pointed out Democrats are going to win the midterms. They're going to take control of the House. It is no fun being part of the minority party in the U.S. House, even when your own president is in the White House, if you don't have a good relationship with that president. And her relationship with Donald Trump right now is awful. She sees no future in the House. Good for her to leave.
Just a final question for all of you. What has this very public spat done to the MAGA movement, and who do the people in the movement trust more now? David Guldenschuh.
I can only speak for the 14th District, and I don't think it's had any significant impact at all. The people here recognize Marjorie and her conservative and her America First, and they see the president in the same way. And it was the hope of all of us that they would somehow find a way to kiss and make up. So I don't think it's had any impact.
But David,
at all.
they can't see them the same way because they have diametrically opposite views on certain issues, Israel and Epstein and other things. They have to make a choice. Who do they go with?
Well, I would remind you of Ronald Reagan's statement that somebody who is 80% my friend is not my enemy.
I'll take it over to Scottie Nell Hughes now. Scottie?
So here's my biggest concern about this. I am worried about President Trump and the rest of his presidency. We're only less than a year into this, and he has already isolated some of his biggest defenders that helped him get elected, whether it be Elon Musk, now you have Marjorie Taylor Greene. So I'm really worried because history sometimes repeats itself as to what, when they do start, if, and I don't think Democrats, I'm not going to say Democrats are going to take over the House. I'm going to be a little bit more optimistic for Republicans. But if they do, Donald Trump is about to face a war against Congress, unlike what he faced in 2017 and 2018. This is going to be something, and some of his strongest defenders are no longer there, which I think is a part of the overall strategy to take down the Trump agenda. That being said, MAGA is going to still be strong, but it's more going to be about America first, and they're going to definitely rally behind the original campaign promises that got Donald Trump elected back in 2024. And for those, that's where him and Marjorie Taylor Greene stand solidly together on.
David Shuster, final answer. What's it done to MAGA, and who do they trust more?
Well, you're right. MAGA is in the midst of a brutal civil war, and a lot of that having to do with things that don't have anything to do with Marjorie Taylor Greene. I actually think Marjorie Taylor Greene is perfectly positioned to try to be the heir apparent for the MAGA ideals, whether it's isolationism, whether it's America First, whether it's, hating on migrants and wanting more deportations, not spending money on Israel or Ukraine. I mean, because if you look at 2028 and the way that Republican presidential primaries work, if you've got people like J.D. Vance and Marco Rubio and Ted Cruz who are in this, there's still a lane for somebody like Marjorie Taylor Greene. And by the way, if it turns out that Donald Trump does have some trouble with the Epstein files, Marjorie Taylor Greene gets to position herself as, hey, I was the person who was the first Republican to break away from Donald Trump on the Epstein files. So I think she's in a great political position, smart politics on her part, but we'll see where MAGA goes.
Of course, Trump would say that if there was any trouble for him in the Epstein files over 4 years of Democrat presidency, they would have dug it up and released it. David Shuster, Scottie Nell Hughes, and David Guldenschuh, thank you all very much. Really appreciate that. Well, as we know, Marjorie Taylor Greene often criticizes Israel for trying to influence America, and that goes for the Epstein files too.
I do want to ask you about something you posted just yesterday on X. You questioned who and what country is putting so much pressure on Trump to keep the Epstein files hidden. And you included a picture about donations from pro-Israel lobbying group AIPAC. What are you trying to say there?
Well, I think it's the question that many Americans are asking, especially when we saw information recently come out in these emails that the Oversight Committee that I serve on has released. And we saw Jeffrey Epstein with ties to Ehud Barak. We saw him making business deals with them, also business deals that involved the Israeli government and seems to have led into their intel agencies. And I think the right question is to ask is, was Jeffrey Epstein working for Israel?
Well, many people think that's a fair question, and we're going to be putting that to our panel in just a moment. But first, a very quick look at Epstein's other connections to Israel. Jeffrey Epstein was linked to hundreds of rich and powerful men around the world, but his connections with Israel are the deepest and most prolific. Les Wexner, the Jewish billionaire owner of Victoria's Secrets, was his biggest client. It was a strange relationship, culminating in Wexner giving Epstein power of attorney over his entire fortune. Epstein's plane and Manhattan townhouse both once belonged to Wexner. Wexner's foundation funded 2 Harvard programs which trained hundreds of Israeli civil servants and politicians. Next up, the Jewish-British newspaper billionaire Robert Maxwell and his daughter Ghislaine. They came into the picture sometime in the mid to late 80s. Jeffrey Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell were partners in crime for many years, that much we know. But his relationship with Robert Maxwell is somewhat more mysterious. According to a BBC documentary, Epstein may have helped Maxwell hide millions of dollars. Robert Maxwell died in mysterious circumstances in 1991. His funeral not held in the UK, but in Israel. It was attended by the Prime Minister Yitzhak Rabin and former Prime Minister Shimon Peres. And Epstein's links to Israeli leaders don't end there. The former Israeli Prime Minister Ehud Barak met Epstein many times, including at his Manhattan home and his Caribbean private island. And they emailed each other for years after Epstein's conviction in 2008.
I dealt in public business, private business with Epstein in his inner circle in the United States after he served his time for offenses much less serious than those he is accused of today.
It's also known that Ehud Barak received funds from the Wexner Foundation, where Epstein was a trustee.
Barak just earlier this week emphatically told the Daily Beast that, quote, he never attended a party with him and never met him in the company of women or young girls.
Well, Epstein's former boss, Steven Hoffenberg, told us back in 2020 that he witnessed Epstein's work for the Israelis and others.
It's a terrible, terrible scandal here in America. It's the worst scandal that's taking place today. I'm an eyewitness to what occurred, and I had direct interaction with all these principals. So I saw it and I heard it, and what they were doing was gathering information that would be important for Israel or the UK to understand about the thoughts of the politicians and the rich and famous people in America. That was the plan. And that was very effective. And Ghislaine Maxwell was actually in charge of that. People don't know that yet, but the victims have confirmed that Ghislaine Maxwell was in charge of the audio and videotaping systems that moved forward to the others involved in the audio and videotaping atrocities. These were crimes. Very sad.
Well, joining me now is Nina Burleigh, who was an executive producer on a documentary show called Epstein's Shadow, Ghislaine Maxwell. And we also have Vic Hartman, a former FBI agent, coincidentally in Marjorie Taylor Greene's state of Georgia. Welcome to the program, both of you. Nina, if I could start with you, what do you believe is the truth about Epstein's relationship with Israel?
Well, given the recent revelations and downloads of emails and texts, I think it's clear that Jeffrey Epstein had a strong and long-lasting relationship with the Mossad, with Israel, supporting Israel. The evidence is really irrefutable now. He helped Israel build a back channel to Russia during the Syrian civil war. He helped broker Israeli security agreements with Mongolia. He pursued the Rothschild Bank to finance the Israeli cyber weapons empire that he was setting up with Ehud Barak. And he even housed a Mossad agent at his his mansion here in New York for a time.
Steven Hoffenberg told us in 2020 that, having spoken to the victims, he was sure that Ghislaine Maxwell and Jeffrey Epstein were running some sort of COMMENTATOR operation, mentioning audio and videotapes. Do you think that is true? And if so, where are these tapes?
Well, I can't answer where they are. I mean, I think the DOJ, the U.S. Justice Department, probably has whatever was in that house. Former agents from the Mossad and CIA told us that everything about the operation that they were able to observe indicated that it was some kind of a COMMENTATOR operation. But again, you know, it's difficult to prove that, given that the evidence is deep in the vault at the DOJ and may never see the light of day.
Vic Hartman, I know you differ here because you don't believe there can be a conspiracy where all these videotapes and audio tapes are held in secret.
Yes. So first of all, I live in a fact-based world and really don't get into conspiracy theories. There's a lot of reasons why I don't think that Israel was working on some type of compromise operation in the U.S. To work a foreign counterintelligence operation out of country, like into the U.S., that's a challenge. Not that it's not done, but it's rarely done. Then you would use your host nation, which would be the U.S., so the FBI should be aware of this or would learn of it sometimes. And secondly, both Israel and the U.S. don't engage with pedophiles as part of their undercover operations. So I don't think any reputable regime or country would do that. Most importantly, where's the evidence? So in 2005, the Palm Beach Police Department started an investigation and executed search warrants, subpoenas, and then they quickly got out of hand with them, or more complicated. So they brought in the FBI, who, if there's any compromise operation, would have either known of it or learned of it. So then there was an undercover Operation Leap Year by the FBI, and it went into now a lengthy undercover operation. A lot of information was found, and the line prosecutor wrote a 60-page indictment to charge Epstein. Now, Alex Acosta, the U.S. Attorney in Miami, reached a deal with Alan Dershowitz, and they settled the case. But the FBI obtained all that information. The Palm Beach Police Department first had it. And since that time, there's been a subsequent prosecution. So there's been analysts, FBI agents, state prosecutors, federal prosecutors that saw all of this. And if there were links to Israel or others, that would have been uncovered. That would be in this treasure trove of information. And the body of people who have been exposed to this is probably in the hundreds. And I can tell you there's one thing that unites everybody is about pedophilia. And if they saw any of this or any links to this, it would be exposed. So for all those reasons, I don't think there's any Israeli operation in the U.S. Or there's any evidence of that at all.
Nina, just wondering if you have a counter argument to that.
Well, I do. I mean, the first thing is he calls it pedophilia, and that is actually a mischaracterization of what was going on. Most of these women were, older teenagers or adult women, and the Paris connection, which I wrote about in my Substack this week, where really that is where the DOJ comes up with the number 1,000 victims. He was moving Eastern European women in and out of Eastern European countries through Paris into other countries, into the U.S., into the U.S. Virgin Islands. Now, was he using these girls as compromat for Israel? I don't know. I'm just saying that that's what the agents that we interviewed said. I think it's reasonable to believe that the amounts of money that he was being given by some of these men was suspicious. He knew how to hide it. So maybe they were just, maybe Leon Black did in fact give him hundreds of millions of dollars because he was such a genius at hiding money. But I think there are these questions about the relationships that he had with these men and the information that he had about what these men were doing with these women that he was moving around.
Vic, isn't it likely that if he was related to any intelligence operation, that would be of a sort of classified nature that we would never be a party to?
Well, you bring up a good point there. So what the FBI would have done is they would have quashed this, or they wouldn't have brought it forward with a prosecution. It was proposed, the FBI supported the prosecution in 2005, 2006, and then the subsequent one in 2019. So all this information would have to be disclosed. When you have criminal investigations that come in conflict with the counterintelligence program, you have to decide which one's weightier. Do you go with the prosecution, or we're going to go with national security? The government in this instance said we're going to go with the prosecution, which is another reason I don't believe there's some counterintelligence operation either through Israel or the U.S. The FBI supported this 58-page, 60-count indictment. And what that does in a criminal context, it triggers discovery. Now the defense has the right to see everything. All these files would have come out if there wasn't a settlement. And the FBI 100% supported that and wanted that prosecution, except for the U.S. Attorney in Miami, who settled a sweetheart deal and let the state and prosecutors settle that case. So it's just another reason that the FBI wanted open and complete disclosure during discovery every step of the way.
Nina, I'll just give you one last chance to respond there as we're running out of time.
Yeah, I think with all due respect, I think the FBI does a great job. I think they're, devoted Americans and public servants. There is evidence that they ignored Maria Farmer, one of the victims, actually called the FBI and talked to them early on, and it took 20 years for them to actually respond to what she was telling them about Epstein having assaulted her and her sister in New Mexico. And then secondly, as far as the Palm Beach slap on the wrist that Alex Acosta agreed to with Dershowitz, Ken Starr, and it was a whole bunch of other big name attorneys, not just Dershowitz, who worked this out. Acosta actually said, I've been told this is an intelligence-connected case, and I was told to lay off it. That's a quote you can find everywhere.
That's right.
So there was something going on that they didn't want to get into, and I think there's some evidence to that.
Absolutely right there, Nina. Thank you for that. Vic, I'm afraid we've run out of time. Nina Burleigh and Vic Hartman, thank you both for your analysis today. Hopefully we can pick it up another time. Thank you. And thank you at home and on your phones for watching. If you want to see this episode or any of our previous episodes, go to our channel on YouTube, type in Nexus TRT World. Until next week then, goodbye.